Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Right now, very happy to welcome off the floor of the House Representative Ilhan Omar, a Democrat representing Minnesota's 5th Congressional District. She is vice ranking member of the House Budget Committee and serves on the House Education and Workforce Committee and is deputy chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Representative Omar, nice to see you, my friend. Happy New Year. I know it's late in the new year, but it's good to see you.
Happy New Year. It's so good to be here with you.
So let's talk about, it's been some week. Trump is just aging the crap out of me. I've lost 4 or 5 years of my life. Every day he takes something. What is your reaction?
You gotta breathe through it. We've been here before. You gotta breathe through it.
We do. But look, I got to be honest. Donald Trump in his 2016 campaign demonized Muslims, saying we knew where the terrorists were, right? We weren't giving them up. We were hiding them. He's going to go after our families. He just pardoned terrorists,
Yeah.
literally terrorists who attacked our capital. So I have a hard time comprehending this. I take it very personally what he did because I believe in our country and I want to protect our republic. And also, Trump made our lives difficult in our community with his demonization. He just, by stroke of a pen, the people who are literally terrorists who committed an act of domestic terrorism, because Christopher Wray testified January 6th was an act of domestic terrorism. What's your
Yeah.
reaction to him pardoning people who brutally beat police officers and convicted seditious conspiracy like the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys?
Well, I believe it's a betrayal to our country, to our democracy, to Capitol Police, to law enforcement, to the members and the staff whose lives were put at risk, who are still to this day dealing with the trauma. We know that Capitol Police, who keep us safe and secure, a lot of them have struggled with depression. Some have taken their own lives. Some are still struggling. And we also know that the family members of these domestic terrorists are also terrified because some of them did the right thing,
Right.
as law-abiding people do. If you see something, you say something. And now what we have told them as well is that the message is if you are living with a criminal, then live with them, because if you turn them in, the president might pardon them a year later and you might have to deal with the consequences. And what I am afraid is that some of their fear might actually materialize, and we might actually see some of these people get harmed by these individuals that Trump pardoned.
Are you concerned that there is a message here that Trump is sending that if you commit violence on my behalf to help me, I've got your back, and that also means in the future as well to incentivize future violence?
Yeah, I mean, what is quite frightening is that that message might also be heard by members of his cabinet and members of his staff. So that guardrail of "I will not commit a crime on your behalf" might not exist anymore, because that promise, or at least the illusion that that promise might exist if they do take an order from him that is criminal, that because they listened and did what he wanted, that he might extend a pardon to them as well. And that in itself would lead to the plunder and the destruction of our nation, our rule, our law and order based governance. And it might really truly reshape how society thinks of and trusts that there is that separation, that there is an opportunity for people to do the right thing, because now whether you do the right thing or not, you can believe the president will go along with you
Certainly.
if you go along with him.
We've never had a convicted felon in the White House before as a president, or a man who attempted a coup and incited an attack on our Capitol and pardon the attackers. It's very hard to intellectually comprehend where we are as a nation right now. It really
Yeah,
is.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also it's embarrassing for one thing because the world is confused.
Yeah.
Why, the United States would choose to have a convicted felon as their president representing them in every platform around the world. And two, it sends a really bad message to our children. Um, and the future generation. My 12-year-old daughter can't get over it. She's just so confused. She's like, we make it hard for felons to get a job, but we are okay to have a felon as the president. What kind of upside down society and country are we living in? It's
Uh,
shameful.
It is. I'm trying to represent Ilhan Omar. Can you share on a personal level, if you've talked to people in the community where you are, I know there's a lot of immigrants, about Trump's threat to do mass deportations and that he's creating this hostile environment towards anyone that has an accent, that it doesn't matter if you're here legally, if you have an accent, you look like you're from another country, his mass deportation force might suck you up and take you away. What can you just share on a human level from what you've heard about concerns from people?
I mean, people are terrified. The mistaken identity piece. A lot of people are, whether you are documented or not, a lot of older folks who come to this country struggle with their accent. A lot of people struggle to learn the English language. And so there is that possibility that you could be confused, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib was talking about her own mother, who has been a
Mhm.
citizen for a really long time, wondering, if she can get caught up in some of the uh, mass deportation plans that we're hearing about, and people are terrified because the due process piece is also being gutted. So you worry, whether you will even get a chance, how long before your family, your relatives, your own children are made aware that you're being detained. We're hearing from folks who are making a plan with relatives and neighbors on who might pick up their children from school in case they
Wow.
get picked up and are deported. Um, we're doing know your rights stuff that we've put out information for folks. We held a meeting a couple of weeks ago with about 100 immigration lawyers, our municipal leaders, the governor's office, the attorney general's office with his deputy, trying to plan and talk through what might be coming down the pipe, which again is what we expected, the executive orders that he signed, and what that actually looks like for our communities, and do we have the capacity, one, to provide assurance and information to folks who are desperately going to need it, and two, do we have the capacity to protect and defend them? And it's there's one of the executive orders that talks about people who are documented, who've been here for a really long time but might not be a citizen. If they have spoken up against the government, if they are nationals from countries that we have a problem with, that they might be set up for deportation as well. And so you're going to have this level of surveillance, this level of fear that people are gonna have to live with. And I've been hearing from people who are like, should I carry around my passport with me?
Right.
And that costs money. Many people who don't have the money to
Hmm.
travel don't get their passports. And so it's what he intended. It's to create this cruel policies to um create deep fear in people, and we just cannot allow for ourselves to be paralyzed by fear. We have to you know, give ourselves the information that we need and stand by one another.
Very true. I wish we could deport the people convicted of brutally beating up police officers on January 6th and keep the migrants, but that's not my ability to do that. So I saw that yourself and Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii reintroduced the Neighbors Not Enemies Act to fully repeal the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which Donald Trump invoked in his inauguration, because when he meant America going to be great again, I guess he meant 1798. What is your what is your concern about the Alien Enemies Act and what it would do?
Yeah, the Alien Act was like you said, implemented in 1798. And what it essentially does, it allows for the president to invoke it and allow for folks to be deported who, based on their nationality, not of their actions.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that in World War II with the Japanese, the Germans, the Italians, and we say that that was one of the darkest moments in our nation's history, that we did that to people who were residents of this country, and treated them as if they were the enemies. And what we are trying to do is to make sure that he's not able to utilize that as he goes after cartels and drug dealers, and does not create a blanketed nationality hunt for folks who are from, Mexican cartels, and weaponize the Alien Act to go after Mexicans who are in this country, or go after Venezuelans, as he goes after cartels who, are Venezuelans or drug dealers.
And it's very concerning. I was reading the press release that you sent out. It was interesting to read it and concerning at the same time. And, Donald Trump signed a whole slew of executive orders, one with birthright citizenship, which now is being held up by the court, which it should be. We'll see what happens when it gets to the Supreme Court. But he also suspended the U.S. refugee admissions program and just suspended. That's it. If you're a refugee, you were waiting to come in. There were Afghan refugees that I read an organization, so they had 2,000 people on the verge of coming here. Had been vetted. What's going to happen now? And can Congress do anything, or because Republicans have control, there's nothing you can do?
Yeah, I mean, first for the birthright, we already knew it was unconstitutional when he signed it, and right. A judge that was appointed by Reagan just shut him down. And I know that he'll keep appealing it until it moves all the way to the Supreme Court, and we are hopeful that they will also deem it unconstitutional. They will deem his executive order as unconstitutional. What he did in the first Muslim ban back in 2017 was add refugees in that sort of executive order for vetting. But this time he actually did something worse, which is to shut down the refugee resettlement program. And that endangers so many Afghan families who are waiting for reunification or were waiting to come to this country. And almost all of these people are people who helped American troops, who risked their lives to save the lives of American troops. And that was something that we promised we would honor. And I've heard from so many veterans who are just incredibly upset that their interpreters, their friends, people who fought alongside them, now have their families at risk. I actually have a constituent who had his wife and daughter. Everything was ready to go.
Wow.
They were waiting to get on a plane. And so this is not okay. The level of cruelty that we've already been exposed to is alarming, and I hope that the American people are noticing and are learning that this man is not just one that bluffs, that he is actually a danger to the lives and livelihoods of Americans and the people that we love, and the people that care for us and help protect us. One of the other severely dangerous one, as we think about veterans, that he did was the executive order to freeze hiring on a federal level. That has made it hard for the VA to fill crucial positions to care for veterans. Many job offers that were extended to folks that were going to start on February 8th are now being rescinded.
Wow.
And we're going to see the backlog. We're going to see the diminishment of care for veterans, and people are going to feel the impact on all of these departments. You know, so many people have gotten used to the demonization of the federal government, and they're going to see that the federal government was the level of services that were being provided to them, that they no longer have access to them. And we have to make sure every single day that we are reminding them that has happened because of Trump, his administration, and the Republican trifecta that currently runs our government.
Anything and everything that goes wrong from now forward is all on them. And it's up to us to remind people about that. Donald Trump did something else in the last few days. He ended the federal diversity programs. He even rescinded an executive order from President Lyndon Johnson from 1965 that was signed to support the Civil Rights Act, which prohibited federal contractors from discriminating on basis of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. So he is literally now, Trump, by rescinding this, federal contractors could have a whites only hiring policy, and that would be fine. And that's what Trump wants. I mean, let's not play games. This is a man who believes in whites only, and this is what's going on here. And it is shocking to me to see this. And I hope enough people care. Like you mentioned, you're hoping people pay attention. I hope that they not only pay attention, but they're disgusted by this and angered and want to engage more and not check out. So, what's your reaction to his warn anybody that's not white and making a chilling effect on federal agencies from hiring someone who's not a white man? I mean, to be blunt, that's what they're doing, because everyone who's not a white man is a DEI hire. A white, straight Christian man, if you're not that, you're a DEI hire to MAGA.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying all along that his hiring practices. He's been sued over and over again. It's probably why he wants all of this shut down, because he's just a bitter man. And again, people really thought we were making this up, even though it's documented, and now
Right.
it's right there for them to see. And these protections, these policies that he's gotten rid of didn't exist to create an opportunity for someone to be hired. They were created to protect people from discrimination, because even to this day, time and time again, what happens is when employers get two applicants, one with white sounding name and one with black sounding name, they are oftentimes more likely to hire the one with white sounding name. And so, like, this is embedded in the system. And these policies were created to give people the recourse to sue against discrimination, to have that merit-based hiring process, to say, I have a bachelor's degree, you have a bachelor's degree, like, we should have the same shot if we have the same experience. If you've done your internship, I've done my internship, we both interview well, like, our application should blindly be accepted. I shouldn't be discriminated because I'm black and I'm Muslim and all of these things. That's basically why this this existed, or like you wouldn't be discriminated because you had a disability. You wouldn't be discriminated because you walked into that job interview because you were pregnant. People couldn't ask if you were pregnant. Like that's why these policies existed, and they turned it into this thing where like the person is hiring for, which again is also discrimination. You can't do that, where the person is hiring a minority because they have to meet some quota or whatnot, that wasn't qualified. We know oftentimes when people who look like me apply for a job, that it is a lot harder, even still with those protections. And now without it, it's going to be very, very, very challenging.
And that's what Trump wants. I mean, they want it. Look, I mean, the climate that
Well, I mean, we run for office and have
I
to do
know.
everything and all, like probably really hard primaries, generals. I represent a district that's 70% white. They still say like we're here because of like diversity, and that
Sure.
people didn't elect us because we had the right policy positions, for our constituents to care about. And so they've made themselves believe that even if you are a PhD holder and you're a Black person, that somehow that school just gave you the PhD.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, underlying that is the myth of white supremacy, so that white people are inherently superior. The rest of us are inferior. The only way we can achieve anything is if someone gives a hand up, because if we were against any white person, that white person has to be better, especially if it's a white man. That's so. The last thing in the last minute, Representative Omar. So what is
Which is not true. Which is not true. That's not
I
true.
know it's a fable. It's the idea of right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But look, they have to make themselves feel better. That's how it has to go. The last thing, there's a lot of listeners who call in and say they want to see Democrats fight harder against not against Democrats, against MAGA, against Trump. Less this talk of common ground. And look, there are Democrats who are fighters, and there are Democrats who have common ground. But what is missing, I think, is one unified, cohesive message that we're missing here. Can you share anything? Is there one, and we're just not seeing it, or is the Democratic Party trying to make sense of where we are, and then it's going to organically evolve? So, what can you share?
Yeah, I mean, I think the resistance in itself looks a little different right now than it did in 17. In 17 it was a severe shock. No one believed he could win
Right.
enough to prepare for that win. And so we were caught flat-footed, and we had to figure out, what January 20th was going to look like, and prepare ourselves. And I think because there was there was a possible expectation that like this could happen again. We've seen Americans make this choice before, and we've had time since November. A lot of things were already in place. You saw with the birthright executive order. Attorney generals were ready to
Mm-hmm.
go and to file their lawsuits because we've been preparing for Project 2025. We've been warning, we've
Right.
been meeting with AGs across the country. A lot of attorneys, immigration attorneys, were ready for these level of executive orders to happen. So even them, the way that they're rolling it out, where it's a lot slower than expected, because they also don't have the resources to be able to be successful and impactful in the way that they'd hoped, and to show their base. And so it's not that we're not fighting; we are fighting. It's just we are not in a crisis mode. We are in a calm, collected. We know what to do, and we are doing it. We are doing everything that we can, and we know how to protect the country and the people that we love.
That's that's all important. I agree. A little crisis mode wouldn't hurt, because the Democratic base wants
Well,
to
I mean,
see.
that's coming, right? We will have
Right.
their bills. We're gonna have the
Sure.
tax fight. We're gonna have, at some point they will get enough resources passed, and attempt their mass deportation. We are
That's going to be
going to
ugly.
see, the thing to watch for is private prisons.
Yeah.
private detentions to see if the stock goes up,
Hmm.
and what members of Congress are investing in, because that's how you know that this whole game of mass deportation really wasn't about a concern for the safety of the American people. It was always about lining the pockets of these millionaires and billionaires who, he was ready to showcase. He said he cared about the American people and the little guy, people who couldn't afford eggs and gas, apparently. But everybody in the forefront, as he got sworn in, was collectively worth more than the bottom half of this country. And actually, the price of eggs and gas has gone up since he's been president.
Well,
And so,
he was going to end the Ukraine war in 24 hours, and he said today, well, it's up to Russia. So I
yeah,
mean, like, so this is
yeah, let's
he's
make a
just
deal.
let,
Yeah,
Representative Omar. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I look forward to chatting with you in the future as we continue on the fight here. And you're doing a great job. So I always enjoy chatting with you. You're a real
yeah.
fighter. So thank
Keep
you.
the faith. We're
Exactly.
in it together. We're gonna be fighting very hard to protect all of us.
Great. Thank you. Have a great night.